Microwave technology has already made it possible to transmit wireless power.
And in Alaska, there is natural gas. In order to send it somewhere, you have to create a pipeline. That's very expensive. So we said, all right, let's go into Alaska, create microwaves from the natural gas, send them to a satellite, put a reflector there, and send it to Japan. And in Japan now, you get an antenna which transforms this microwave into 60 hertz and you get electricity. So you make essentially Tesla's dream.
So there's a lot of potential. At the same time, this company today and the people who've had their hands on this technology for a century now are very closely tied to the military, and you better believe there are weaponized applications for this as well. The president and CEO, General Michael Miller, is a retired U.S. Air Force brigadier general who's dealt with budgets as large as $6 billion, personnel as many as 40,000, and has been involved at the corporate and operational strategic planning level of the military for decades, for over 28 years. Meanwhile, the executive vice president for business development comes right out of Chevron's executive branch. He was vice president for emerging technologies at Chevron's Technology Ventures. He dealt with more than $400 million in venture capital. Meanwhile, the chief technology officer at Visiv is involved in microwave applied metrology, that's very precise measurements, has multiple patents and inventions involved with guided microwave spectrometry, and has been dealing with sensors for biomedical, industrial, and scientific applications, as well as the development of wireless power transfer using Xenix surface waves. So there's that. This company has yet another military official, Richard T. Devereaux, who's involved with the government affairs for the company, and who was involved with the Air Force and the Pentagon for decades. And then a lawyer out of Vinson and Elkins, just a high-powered law firm. And anyway, this company is just deeply involved in it. Again, they've got partnerships with Baylor and other surrounding universities, and they're going to actually finally try what Tesla dreamed of all those years ago, what he almost achieved and accomplished. And it's just hard to say if this is a positive development or not, because there are so many applications for this technology at this point. The dream of free electricity, free wireless, ubiquitous internet makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, after all the research Melissa and I have done, and so many countless others have done on mind control applications and the use of very high technology, pulsed microwave frequencies.
The Central Intelligence Agency had carried out a bizarre series of behavior modification and mind control experiments on unwitting citizens.
I've been reading this book here, Cross Currents, The Perils of Electromagnetic Pollution by Dr. Robert Becker. All of the studies from the 50s on were funded in large part by the military. And so the results that came out ended up jiving with the military stance on how non-ionizing radiation is fine.
Microwaves, and there are differing views on how much radiation is bad for your health.
It's all kept a deep, dark secret by the two superpowers. The Russians dramatically boosted the intensity of the microwave bombardment.
The U.S. government began measuring the levels of microwave radiation in the environment.
Concern over harmful health effects was very real.
The anxiety state is produced by chronic exposure to microwaves.
Microwave radiation can produce medical problems.
The neurological effects.
Neurological meaning what?
Well, effects on the nervous system, irritability, sleepiness, memory loss, headaches.
This very same technology undoubtedly could be used as a military weapon to pacify entire populations, to target overseas populations, but it could also save them. It could deliver them essential services. It's definitely a sign of the future that pulls directly from the past, however. The very technologies they seemingly have kept from us for such a long time, while keeping us on the oil and gas, petroleum system, the dinosaur system with cars, well, it may finally be passing into a new era if experiments go as planned, if they do what they claim they could do. This could change the world. Who knows? It just remains to be seen. That's definitely something they talked about in this news broadcast. They interviewed a person who said, I think it would be awesome to help out
countries where people have limited abilities to have communication.
Makes me think about maybe Puerto Rico or places where they have a natural disaster
right.
and this kind of technology.
You might be able to send them information and power that they don't have.
They claim it's going to help with regional GPS and radio navigation, broadcast signaling. It could power things through the air, as I've said. One thing that is very interesting is that the SEC filings for the company, Visiv Technologies, who were previously known as Texon Technologies, who are again based out of Waxahachie, Texas, a little closer to Dallas, but operating this tower out of Milford. On top of their CEO, Michael Miller, who is in the military, and their other officials, there are two brothers, James Corum and Kenneth Corum, and both of them have been involved in some high technology experimental testing for a long, long time, since the 60s and 70s. And Dr. James Corum in particular has been researching all the effects, all the related science around electromagnetics, antennas, radio frequency telecommunications, radio astronomy, and so forth and so on for decades. He's consulted for the National Security Agency, for DARPA, for the DoD, for the Defense Intelligence Agency, for the CIA, for the NRO, for the IDA, and all these other acronyms. And he's been deep in this stuff. He's been researching plasma science. And according to Al Bielek's site concerning the Montauk conspiracy, Dr. James Corum also conducted experiments into the hypothetical, kind of rumored, kind of stranger than fiction Philadelphia experiments, where they supposedly experimented with time travel and disappearing ships based on Tesla's technology. Well, he apparently found that there was a very real basis to this very out there kind of stuff. And basically, James F. Corum has been following the thread of Tesla technology for a long time. Stuff that the mainstream either dismissed or believed was impossible, he's been testing and trying to put into practice. And therefore, they've got a page for him on the Tesla Memorial Society, which is at the old Wardenclyffe site on Long Island. They've got entries for him on sites about the Montauk experiments and all the really weird stuff that a lot of people believe and other people don't think could have even happened. I'm a little bit on the fence on it because the stuff is so weird, but quite frankly, there's a basis for it. And it's very obvious that someone at least looked into it, because we researched as much as we could surrounding those weird events, and it's pretty clear that some kind of military scientific endeavor did take place. Whether or not any of that weird stuff was possible, I don't know, but mind control has very much been on the table for a long time. And here they are with a wireless power distribution tower right there in Texas in plain view right off the highway. And curiously enough, it's very closely in the footprint of what was once going to be the superconducting super collider based out of Dallas, but really located in Waxahachie, and only maybe 15 or 20 miles from the Milford Towers site. So whether there's any interaction there between that abandoned site, which some people claim may have been completed, between that site, which has now been used by oil and gas companies, data storage companies, and all types of other experimental technology companies, whether or not there's any involvement between that really gigantic facility, which was once going to be bigger than CERN, and that they built at least 14 miles of tunnels for and spent over $2 billion for, whether or not there's any connection between that and Visiv Technologies' attempt to bring to life Tesla's wireless energy transfer tower outside of Milford. Well, it's difficult to say if there's any connection, but there very well might be. It's very curious, and a lot of people on the Reddit conspiracy forum pointed that out, and it's pretty hard to dismiss, honestly, since already just the fact of there being a Tesla tower off the side of the road seems like science fiction, and yet it actually happened. It was a rumor, it was speculative, we saw it off the road, said, hey, what is that, a Tesla tower? Not expecting it to actually be admittedly one, and it is. That's the day and age we live in. It was a Tesla tower, it is a Tesla tower, and they're soon to be turning it on and experimenting with it. In the next 10 or 20 years, it may change the way that we live. What do you think about that?
Wow to that. They're working at this laboratory they're building.